smartphones are in essence a supercomputer that children can now put in their pockets. So it's 24/7. It's often unrestricted access, even parents that think they're doing the right thing. I mean, restrictions can be sort of bypassed or just not be very thorough.
Welcome to the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast, the show where we shine a light on the incredible businesses, community leaders and local legends shaping our town. I'm your host, James O'Donnell, and today we are very privileged to be joined by two guests, Sophie Sullivan and Khatkar. Good morning. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning. Great to be here.
So for those of us who don't know you yet, who are you and what do you do here in Bishop Stortford?
So we represent, well, first of all, we're both mums. We're both mums living, working, doing the mum thing in Bishop Stortford. I've been here since 2012. I don't know how long you've lived here, Kiran?
December 21, just before Christmas we moved here.
There we go. And after the lockdown. That's great. So yeah, we're local mums. We met each other not too many years ago, probably about just under 2 years ago. And we've kind of been brought together by this particular movement of Smartphone Free Childhood. And we're just volunteers, part of the core group of the local branch of Smartphone Free Childhood for Bishop Stortford. So we call it SFC Stortford. And really over the past 2 years, we've developed a larger group of mums and dads basically advocating for what it says on the tin, a life sort of free of smartphone addiction for children.
It's become part of the conversation that I'm having with a lot of parents. My second child is preschool at the moment, and everyone's starting to have these conversations. You know, when you start taking them to nursery groups or to clubs and they start thinking about what's going to happen as they get older. Everyone's talking about this at the moment. So I'm fascinated to understand how you're advocating and what the benefits are.
Yeah. I mean, there are two aspects, really. I mean, the very first thing is that here we're specifically looking at smartphones, although all devices could kind of be looked through under this lens. But smartphones are in essence a supercomputer that children can now put in their pockets. So it's 24/7. It's often unrestricted access, even parents that think they're doing the right thing. I mean, restrictions can be sort of bypassed or just not be very thorough. And there's, of course, the FOMO element of smartphones. There's this real pressure on parents to provide their children with one. And I think Smartphone Free Childhood Stortford is just trying to shine the light on some of the harms and the dangers. And the branch in particular is trying to do what Smartphone Free Childhood are looking and aiming to do nationally. There are two aspects to it. One is really a sort of a lobbying and advocacy side, which is that we're looking to encourage government, and in our case, it'd be local government, to look at their smartphone policies, to assure parents that we have their support, to try and encourage the large social media companies through parent power, through sort of parents making a noise about it, to do something about it out of care and concern for our children. And then the other aspect is at the grassroots level is to try and change the norm with parents, with teachers, with those interested and supportive of our young people, to try and educate, raise the awareness, I guess, amongst parents who may not know of the harms and the dangers, and then help them to see that there is another way possible for the sake of their children who are now being exposed to all sorts of things. I mean, there's loads out there. I don't know, Kiran, do you want to share some of the harms that we're
so our journey together around sort of smartphones and screens. So I started to look independently on my own, and before I found Sophie, was looking into online gaming harms. I was quite surprised by what I discovered. I looked into something known as the Las Vegas effect, which a lot of social media apps and online gaming platforms actually utilize the brain's natural brain chemistry, where the dopamine circuit of sort of rewards and the positive dopamine hormone release when you get your reward has been manipulated by these tech companies. So, for example, randomized rewards are created, and which is by social media apps. And it just allows, it sort of hooks people into this idea of like continuous scroll. So you don't know when you're going to get something that really, that strikes a chord and releases that dopamine hit. And then you want to try it again, keep scrolling until you then find your next reward. And what happens from the studies that I've read and we've looked into, and which are now becoming more mainstream and accepted as fact through more research than studies that have been done, is that the sort of tricky ages are around sort of ages 9 to 14, as the brain is developing and laying down its neural pathways. The short-circuiting this sort of dopamine reward system that already is within the brain and works very well, but by manipulating that brain chemistry through these randomized rewards at those times, those developmental sensitive times, for children can be quite damaging and can cause longer term impact. So that's what we've sort of been quite concerned about.
Yeah, and for me, my personal journey was really about kind of what's available online, and it's basically everything. I heard it once said it's like sending a child into a city and just saying, go where you like. I mean, you're happy for them to go to Hamleys, but you don't really want them to go down the red light district. And, I've got 5 children. 2 of my children have inadvertently accessed inappropriate content that it just is heartbreaking when you think of it. And I always thought it of an if, but actually it's a when, honestly, with many children. And many children, I think their first access of porn is like 8, 9 years old. I mean, that should be a scary enough fact to make us want to do something about it. And I guess meeting Kiran and other parents who feel this way, suddenly you're not doing it, finding it out on your own or feeling isolated in that experience. Yeah. And Stortford's community has really sort of been great. So finally, we're meeting each other and creating conversation about it.
Today's podcast is brought to you by a great local business helping people take back their time in Bishop Stortford. If your weekends are getting swallowed by cleaning instead of time with your family, I get it. As a dad of 2 young boys, I know how fast those moments can go, and I've been let down by cleaners before. That's why I use Time For You Cleaning. They're reliable, friendly, and give you one less thing to worry about. If you want your time back, head to timeforyou.cleaning and let them know the podcast sent you. Get back your precious time and support local. Right, back to the show. So if they're the harms and they're the dangers, which I understand, what can we do to help support? I suppose it's twofold, isn't it? You want to be able to help parents make better decisions or make a decision to support their children. And then also, how can they help them, maybe if they are already kind of down one pathway, but they want to move back the other way, how you can actually help people to move in that direction?
I think Sophie and I have come at this from sort of quite different sort of views and perspectives in some ways, because Sophie very strongly had already stopped her children from getting smartphones. So, hats off to Sophie for doing that, because it's not an easy thing to do. I, on the other hand, sort of went blindly down this path, and like many parents have done, I think, and have been very open and honest about that. My children did have a smartphone. My daughter certainly had one, but it didn't have the proper controls and restrictions in place. I didn't know enough about the harms. And it was from me then sort of going through this journey of educating myself to understand what the harms are, and then having conversations. So I've had to really work quite hard to roll back what sort of the environment that we had created at home inadvertently. And that has been, as a personal journey, as a family, it's been full of challenges. I've got so much empathy for parents, because I'm certainly not judging anybody, because I've been through it and it's tough and we're still going through it. Don't have all the answers, I'm afraid, but I can give some tips and ideas of, was really about being very open and engaged with the kids, and being empathetic and understanding that they want to try and fit in, and I can understand that. But it was really about sort of drawing back some of the access. So we've found some really good parental controls online software which has come out, that it's quite recent, that we've been using. It's much more granular and it's a lot easier to keep track and control. So that's one thing that we found has really worked as a family. Things like changing my own habits. I sort of have a background in teaching yoga, so I'm very mindful. I do teach a little bit of mindfulness for children as well. And I used a lot of what I've been learning, what I learned myself, and how to sort of change and adapt our behaviours at home. That has also been challenging, because even as adults and parents, for us to then have that awareness to realise when we're making mistakes and starting to change habits. So little things like not having phones or devices at the table when we're eating is a big thing. That's worked very well for us. Making sure, for example, that the software is in place. Having open and honest conversations with the children to get them on board with the learning that we've been through. So I've tried to explain some of the dangers. And I have to say that, as reluctant as my children had been initially, they have been a lot more better on board now. And they try to be agents of change amongst their peer groups, which is an easy thing to do for young children. They're 11 and 13, so it's quite challenging.
Having to swim against the tide. You're having to swim against the tide.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And everything that Kiran has said, actually, in my experience, as I say, I decided early on, even before I ever heard of Smartphone Free Childhood, to try and go smartphone free, certainly for the children. And it's still the same challenges. And as a family, it is about reordering, reconnecting with what's important to you. And as you say, open and honest conversations. I agree with that. I mean, we do things like we would never allow phones or devices in bedrooms. And we think that sounds like a basic thing, but lots of parents have gone down that route. And again, it's not to point the finger or judge. And the same with the children. I mean, you do hit a bit of blowback. I mean, not all my children are finding it easy to accept that their mum is now quite into this. But as Kiran said, if you explain it to them, you're explaining to them out of care and concern for them. You're not doing it to wag the finger and say, all tech is bad. And I think that's really important to say. Smartphone Free Childhood Stortford is not anti-tech.
No.
I mean, there's really lots of good things about tech, but it's about being discerning. It's about being conscious and conscientious of how you're accessing it. And the fact that what we experience as children and young adults is totally different to what our children are experiencing, this absolute overabundance. Almost, it's like a pummeling of information being thrown at you from all angles. And children are not able to process that in the way that we adults can. And I think things started off as, the talking Tom and really simple things that made us laugh, that we thought, oh, this is great. And actually then we gave everyone a free pass to smartphones. And I think so then to parents, I mean, we've been doing a lot of advocacy work in schools as well, doing parental workshops. And I think the main thing is raising awareness amongst parents, making it allowed to be part of the conversation. I think for so long, parents have lived in isolation, thinking this is a problem I'm having, my kids must be awful compared to, and so actually making people realize there are other people out there that have these concerns and just allowing them to talk it through, sharing ideas like that and so forth. That's what is the power, is really sort of being a community together on it and not being in isolation.
So I suppose there must be a kind of spectrum from children actually having smartphones and being on all social media platforms and playing all the games and not having mobile phones or screens or even TVs in the house at all, which are like right the way over here. And then you're kind of advocating for people to move towards a more sensible kind of, as you said, conscious awareness of what these different devices can do. Because there's no way of avoiding it completely, because some schools even advocate using apps to complete homework on, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do. And I'm sure people are going to have conversations about that. And there's the big conversation about stopping under 16s getting on social media at all, and actually introducing a ban to protect young people. So I suppose by having the conversation, the intellectual conversation with your children, or if they're not old enough yet, actually just kind of making a decision yourself in your household, you're just making people more aware so that they can move towards something that's more sensible and sustainable. Is that kind what the aim is with everything?
Yeah, I mean, Smartphone Free Childhood itself, there's sort of three main elements. The first one is simple phone, or what some people call the brick phone, until not before 14 years old, so year 9. And then they encourage no social media before 16, which is what the government are currently talking about. So in that sense, things are sort of aligning a little bit in terms of conversation. And then the other thing is then moving the choices and the decisions about tech into the family, and not just that the family choose it, because all families should be thinking about this stuff, but just actually like computer use, device use, make it within the family home, like a computer that people can see, that takes it away from the privacy of your bedroom, or, a 24/7 access where children just can't switch off from being that kind of on their online self in the home. And of course, parents then feel agency to make whatever decision feels right in their family. But those are like the basic bottom line. I think the reason why brick phones, or now there's a much greater sort of choice of simple phones, that basically our phones not accessing the internet. That's the main thing as a sort of a bottom line. And then building from there, as you said, incrementally as children grow. So missing out that sort of 8 to 12-year-old window where the brain really needs to develop. And then slowly from there, opening up the options, sort of technological options to your children. But I think one of the lies of all of this is that if they don't experience tech before 16, they're not going to be able to manage it. And I mean, I personally don't feel that's true. And I know Smartphone Free Childhood generally would want to push back on that, because actually children within 2 seconds can work out any devices and are able. We're living in a digital world. So, you know, they get a lot of it. So they wouldn't necessarily be missing out on that aspect of things, you know.
I think it's just more about raising awareness and being more selective about the type of access that children have to the internet. So by firstly highlighting what the dangers are, simply like, for example, in a real life example would be a metaphor, fencing off a garden, rather than keeping the garden open so that there's clear access to a busy road or a stream, putting a fence around the garden, saying this is the safe space. And then those other areas are with warnings and with training, and you can go there at an appropriate time. And it's that kind of concept, saying, you know, the internet as a landscape has been opened up for children, but it hasn't been prepared for children. It's not the right environment for all children to be accessing. And there has been a distinct lack of education for parents and caregivers on what the actual real life dangers are with these social media type apps and online gaming platforms, because of the type of the technology that's used, the programming that's used, and the manner in which it manipulates the brain chemistry. They're highly addictive, which is why a lot of parents, you know, will find that when they say, well, you need to get off that online game, you need to, you know, because it's a live streaming game, they can't immediately get off that game. So that causes issues. It also, because of the randomized sort of reward system, they can buy things, they can achieve things. That can be really tempting and difficult to pull away from. But on the actual apps themselves, you know, the communication platforms on a mobile phone or an iPad, they use those addictive algorithms. And it's that addiction that can cause the tantrums and the difficulties for parents to say, actually, you now need to get off that phone.
The parents don't want that argument, you know.
No, it's a very difficult argument to have.
Whereas now there's so much evidence of the opposite. Whereas before it was just we were just thrown all this stuff at us as parents and never had it before, didn't know how to navigate it. Whereas now it's very clear scientific evidence, studies to show the negatives, the dangers and the harms. And we don't want to always talk about dangers and harms, but the idea is that knowing these things can help us have hope for what we can do differently and for positive change.
Absolutely. Really. We can focus on the positive aspects of technology, but using them in a positive way by understanding why there are dangers and what areas need to be avoided for young children. Adults alike, we know how susceptible we are to continuous scrolling and how difficult it can be and how much willpower it requires to pull away. And that is it's about raising that awareness and empowering parents not to be judgmental, not to tell them what to do. I've been very open with my situation, but to really feel that actually we're not alone in this conversation. We're all learning, and we're on a journey together to try and make things a bit better if we can. And I think this is a real pivotal moment, especially that we've had the support of the government as well now with this social media ban being proposed.
So what can parents in Bishop Stortford do if they're interested in what you're talking about and they feel like they want to support their children, they maybe even want to get more involved in what you're doing? You've got an event coming up that they can come to and learn?
We do, yeah. Yes, yeah, we do. I mean, thankfully, we've slowly grown our sort of presence around in the community. It was really lovely during the Christmas shop. We kind of had a stall in Jackson Square and we were meeting and greeting. And that was really positive because conversations is where it starts. And we wanted to do a bigger conversation. So we've decided to do a panel event on the 5th of March, which is a Thursday evening from 6:30. And during that panel event, we've gathered together some interesting panelists, including yours truly, but some people within the community who we feel have something to say on the matter. And as well as that, there's going to be an opportunity for question and answer, an opportunity to hear what some of those sort of dangers are and those harms, and also the reasons why we feel very strongly that there are other ways of doing things. But the most important takeaway we want at that event is to give parents tools and things they can do. I mean, one of the things that generally has been really successful when we've gone around schools is showing alternative simple phones. Everyone knows the brick phone, the Nokia, which is still available and probably the cheapest and easiest out there. But actually, there is so much more coming into the fore. And I think what we wanted for the panel event is that it's an opportunity to highlight the good stuff that's out there. There are some really good books to read. It's amazing to be able to show parents, and we will do that at the event, show them other phones, other phone options, because we just didn't know those existed, and they didn't for a while, or the mainstream shops won't show them. You've sometimes got to order these things online, But if you start to know and start to see what's out there that can help you to either roll back a decision you made that you regretted, or to say, well, my child is in, I don't know, early years or in year 1 or 2, but I want to prepare myself for this. There's so much online now and, in the public sphere that we can sort of hang on to. So we want that panel event to be raising more awareness, as we said, that's the main thing, of laying out the facts and figures, but also allowing for a discussion, which the panel will lead, and then there'll be question and answer, to hopefully empower parents to go out at the end of that evening and say, right, I could do something about this for myself, my family, and I now know and have seen the faces of other people who maybe feel the same, or we might not be advocates of it yet, but we know we want something different in our family life. And this could be the start of it. So we just want to just keep sort of boosting that, not just our presence as a group, but just to enable other people to start having the conversation and know that there's other things they can do. And we just don't all have to go down the slipstream of, right, your child's in year 6, give them a phone, which it has been. If we're honest, that's what it's been for a long time.
So if people want to come to that event, where do they need to go online to register and book themselves in?
It's an Eventbrite page.
Eventbrite, yes. We have it.
And the title of the event is Navigating Smartphones and Tech as a Family. That's what it's called, Navigating Smartphones and Tech as a Family. And it's on the 5th of March. It's taking place at a local school, which is the Bishop Stortford High School, Boys High, known locally as Boys High. And it's a free event. That's the main thing. Yeah. So if they go to the Eventbrite page and look up Navigating Smartphones and Tech as a Family, and look up the 5th of March, they should find the details there, but we can also pass you on that info.
We really want it to be a positive message for parents. That's the idea behind it, too, because it's never too late. It's not too early to be thinking about these things, and it's not too late to make any changes, that long-lasting changes, however difficult it might be, it might seem.
Understand. Well, what we'll do is we'll put in the show notes, we'll put a link to the group as well, which is I think on Facebook, and then we'll also put a link to the event. So if anybody listening to this wants to sign up and come along and add to the discussion or learn more all about the different kinds of tactics and strategies they can use to help their children, that's going to be, we'll put them in the link so people can follow up on that themselves. And I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to be fascinated in what you've got to share.
We specifically want that it's not just singing from the choir. We want people who are maybe even a bit cynical about it to come along, because it's important to just find out about it.
Okay, are you ready for some Stortford Spotlight questions?
We are.
This episode is brought to you by True Tone Media. If you want a podcast, testimonials, or a better way to tell your story, but you keep feeling stuck because video feels awkward or cringe, that's exactly what we fix. True Tone Media creates conversational video for your business without that cringe. If you know you need to produce content but don't know where to start, hit the link in the show notes and we can have a chat. Okay, back to the show. Excellent. These are 3 fast questions that we ask every guest that come on the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast. First question, if you could put one sentence on a billboard in Jackson Square, what would it say and who needs to hear it the most?
Well, I'd say something like, if you're thinking of getting your child a smartphone, or you think that getting your child a smartphone wasn't the smartest choice, join SFC Stortford you're not the only one. And I think saying you're not the only one is important. First of all, that's the name of our Facebook page, but you're not the only one is really everyone out there, whether they've, already given the smartphone and need rolling back, or this is the first time they're thinking about what their decision is going to be. And I'd say we're talking to people who need convincing. I think that's the thing. That was what was really great about our meet and greet in Jackson Square. So it's fortuitous that you ask us that question, because we just found that so life-giving. And I think hopefully providing some hope to parents who may not have even thought about it, or are on just, I think a lot of parents are a bit on a cliff edge and they're thinking, right, what do I do about this? And they feel like there's the inevitable, I have to give a smartphone. And I think we just want to talk to anyone who's willing to just question that narrative, really, and do something different.
Trying to shift the social norms, which is quite a feat, actually, but like a challenge.
And to make people feel they're not alone, that there's a community around them, and that no one needs to just go about it by their own strength, really.
Yeah. Well, I think Bishop Stortford, one of the things that I've found since moving here is a lot of people moved here for the same reason that I did, because of the schools. And so you're going to have a community that is naturally invested in what's happening with their children. And so because of that, if there's something that they can do to help support their development, they're going to be really interested in what you have to say and in that conversation. So I think as a community, we can all come together to help those conversations happen more. And hopefully from you guys being on today, that's going to really, really help that. Okay, question 2. Where do you go in Stortford that you secretly hope never gets too popular?
Okay, so my answer is slightly double-edged, because I think it would be good if it did get busy. But yes, for now, I really like the nature reserve at Southern Country Park. It was one of the first places that some of us first met, Sophie and I, and another lady called Anna. When we first got together, we sort of connected there, and it's just a beautiful, quiet spot.
Yeah, we were able to go there and breathe a collective sigh of relief.
So it was lovely. So that's where I'd say,
Yeah, and we try and promote, I think this idea of smartphones is the opportunity cost around smartphones of just wasting time on a screen. And what's lovely about some of the green spaces in Bishop Stortford, especially Southern Country Park, is that, you can just disconnect from all of that stuff and just really enjoy connecting with people and with nature.
It's certainly somewhere I go with my 2-year-old, who definitely has got the explorer's bug in him. And he's off around the trails. I'm chasing after him, shouting his name, because he's a lot quicker than I am.
I love that little bit with the little nature reserve spot where you can see the fish, you can see water vole and the different birds. I do enjoy enjoy going there.
I'm not sure we'll be going down the zip wire anytime soon.
That's my eldest son. He's got that. He's got that covered. Loves the zip wire. Okay, question number 3. Who's doing something special in town that more people need to know about?
Well, I would say SFC Stortford, but thinking about another place in town that links with our aims would be the library. I mean, I think libraries kind of go in and out of fashion, don't they? And I know some people love the library, but I also know that lots of people are turning away from books to screens. So actually the library were very supportive. They helped us host some of our first workshops a year or so ago. But I always think of Roald Dahl, his famous poem that he writes, I think, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, when he's talking about Mike TV, isn't it? And all about books. I mean, it's a long poem, but he talks about books, replace your TV screen for shelves with books. And I just really resonated with that. I mean, and I just think the library is such a treasure trove of everything. It's a community hub. You've got all of that. But, the scary statistics, I think, that came out last week by the Office of National Statistics were that 0.6% of children under 5 are not actually reaching their required level of development in terms of their communication skills, their reading, their vocabulary. Again, it's worrisome, but we don't have to sort of be down in the dumps about it. There's some really excellent things we can do, and reading a book is one of them. My children love reading. Just because they don't have a smartphone doesn't mean that they're that they're missing out. I mean, there's so much you can get from a really good book, and I think we'd want to promote that. And it's a little oasis for people.
And that echoes the National Year of Reading as well this year, 2026. Yeah. So it's a big drive nationally to encourage reading across all generations. Yeah.
Get lost in a good book.
What a way to finish. I'm desperate to get someone from the library on the podcast to talk about all the things that they do, because there are so many different initiatives and projects and groups that kind of are centered on the library, and it would be great to get someone from there to to talk through all of that. So I'll put that on my to-do list now for get someone on, because I think it would be a great follow-on from today. Again, can you just drop your URL out loud so that if anybody's listening to this, they can follow along with you online?
Sure, it's www.eventbrite.co.uk, and then you need to find Navigating Smartphones and Tech as a Family. It's the 5th of March, it's a Thursday evening, it starts at 6:30, and it's taking place at the Boys High School, Beaumont Avenue, Bishop Stortford.
Wonderful. Great shout out. We will put all the links in the show notes, so if anybody is interested in that, they can follow along, and we'll do a post on our Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
Of
and our
event,
Facebook page is actually called Not the Only One. So we are SFC Stortford, but our Facebook page is also called Not the Only One. We try to encourage people to come together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast. That's your first podcast done for both of you. So congratulations. If you're out there and you've enjoyed this episode, the best way to support our show is to hit follow, leave a quick review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening to this, and then share it on your socials or show it to someone who's maybe not on social media that might be interested in the strategies and tactics that we've discussed today, or might be interested in coming along to the event, because you never know who might be interested and who might be able to support the conversation. And if you've got a local legend, someone from the library that do you think we should feature next, drop their name in the comments so I can follow up with them directly, so we can shine a light on the work that they're doing in Bishop Stortford as well. Sophie, Kiran, thank you so much for joining us today on the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast.
It's been a really great pleasure.
Thank you.